Tried to uncap it, but you can't because there's a presenter. Because like technically the lobby's for 99. The voice room's technically for 99 possible, but second you start doing
video.
screen sharing or video, drops the
Ah,
cap to 25.
do you have to pay extra for
I
that?
believe so. But I'm not sure. The extra
Look
is
at
quite a
them.
lot.
Look at them trying to make. Oh man.
But
I noticed. Has anyone noticed Discord has been getting a little bit funky with the monetization? I tried posting a big message the other day, like I had been doing for years, and it told me that I had to pay up if I wanted to post a message that was like more than 2,000 characters, and
yes.
and so I just cut my message in half and posted them right after that. What what's the point of this? Discord? No.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to get that money any way they
the
can at this
squeeze
point.
the squeeze is on, and
Yeah.
in a couple years we'll have another version of Discord that is still in its early VC backing mode, so they're not, the squeeze isn't on. We'll migrate to that, then they'll squeeze, we'll migrate to the next thing, and they'll squeeze.
Tis the traditional model.
Yes, it's the way of the world.
Yeah, remember when everyone used Skype? Yeah, I remember.
Yes. I'm still working with somebody who only uses Skype, and I actually had to. It turns out it's default installed on Windows 10, so that was useful. But I had to recover my Skype account, um, and I was like, oh, you don't use Discord or Slack or anything? And they're like, oh no, I use Discord, but to play games. And I was like, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Didn't Microsoft get in trouble a couple decades ago about bundling IE with Windows?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Well, geez, they bundle all sorts of stuff now.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
I use the Xbox Game Pass to play PC games and get them for a discounted price. And I logged in and looked at my library the other day, and I saw Solitaire was installed. It had installed it when it was just open in the background one time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I have never sat down and said to myself, I want to play Solitaire. Like, I have so many games in the world to play. I have the Game Pass on Xbox. Like, I should have so many games at my fingertips to play. I'm going to play Solitaire today.
No, I was one of those people that always played that pinball game on Windows XP. I forgot what it was called, but
There's the Space Cadet pinball.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah. That's
amazing.
I think I used to play that whenever my internet went out.
100%.
When your internet goes out, you're kind of in a jam. You're like, okay, what do I have downloaded on Steam right now? And that's what you're playing.
Yeah.
Getting ahead of the curve, posting it so that we can repost it when needed.
Has anyone been playing Psychonauts? Didn't that come out other day or so? Yeah.
I have not had a chance myself, but I think I saw some Twitch streamers playing it.
Okay. This is a beautiful, beautiful week. Microsoft has published a platformer, like a AAA budget, AAA high budget platformer. So it's a new era.
That is exciting.
I woke up this morning and all I was thinking about was Banjo-Kazooie. Right.
Yeah.
I was thinking, well, okay, now we're allowing platformers on the Xbox. What happened to Banjo back in the day? I wonder if Rare's salty about that, or if they wanted to do the switcheroo, or this has consumed my morning.
I think Rare is doing rather well right now. I don't think they're too concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, their recent partnership with Disney for the Sea of Thieves Captain Jack Sparrow update drove a ton of sales and players. So
awesome.
Yeah, they are not unhappy. But I can't remember. Did Matthew end up at the Rare team, or did he end up with ZeniMax?
He was at so he was at 343. He went to Digital Extremes.
Yep.
And then he went to ZeniMax.
Okay.
Online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if he worked on Sea of Thieves or if he worked on Elder Scrolls Online.
a little bummed he's not on Skyrim. I don't have any insiders on Skyrim right now. Sorry, not Skyrim. The Skyrim follow up.
Mm.
Yeah, getting our fifth port of Skyrim anniversary edition. Although it does sound really cool, 500 community made mods and packed in that, and fishing, of course.
Of course. But no, I am. We were joking in the office today. We have to worry a lot less about optimization with the new Unreal Engine 5 updates. And so we were joking about how if they remaster Skyrim on Unreal Engine 5, we'll see it out on the toaster oven within a few years because it can run on anything.
It'll become the new Doom.
Yes.
Can it run Skyrim?
I can't wait to see Crisis on a refrigerator.
That would be impressive. I think that would be a fun marketing approach for like Epic Games to take with Unreal Engine 5. Because their big push is that optimization doesn't have to be such a concern anymore. Because with their new system, you can do as many polygons as you want, as many triangles as you want, doesn't matter. Should be able to run just fine on anything. To see them do a few remakes on ridiculous items, I think would be a very interesting marketing play. Or a few demos on smart fridges or smart appliances. I think that'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Has anyone remember those I know it's been a while, but the airplane touchscreens? Like you board a Delta or an American Airlines jet, there's this screen in front of you. It purports to have a touch screen, but you're not sure initially because you tap a button and nothing happens. Wait a second, and then like 5 seconds later, it something might happen. It's really laggy. I wonder if so what's interesting to me is not the fact that it's super laggy, because of course, right, it's cheap hardware. They have to have a billion of those screens inside the cabin. But what's interesting to me is that they bothered to put games on it in the first place, right? Like all this does is highlight how cheap this technology is, and you can't really play anything besides a really slow match 3 much of the time. Hey Sarah, are you here?
Yep.
I know you. Hey,
Just
welcome.
been waiting. Just been waiting.
Fantastic. So what we'll probably do is we'll do a technique we call Michigan time, which is where we start 5 to 10 minutes after we said we were going to start.
Fair enough.
So we'll get to about 7:05. We'll do a couple community announcements, maybe show off some stuff, and then we'll do an intro for you. Okay? And then you can take
Okay.
over. You can start sharing your screen, whatever you'd like to do. Okay?
All right. Sounds good.
The origin of Michigan time comes from an interesting facet of the University of Michigan's campus. If you haven't been on U of M's campus, it is split into 3 parts, and you often need a bus to quickly get between those 3 campuses, a north, central, and south campus. And that's a problem because a lot of students will pack courses literally back to back. Right? You've got like a 5 to 10 minute buffer to get to the next class, and that's it. So you have to run to the bus, hop on the bus, hope you get there in time. By starting courses a little bit late, that actually makes schedules like that possible. So that's why it exists and has become ingrained in the culture there. I suppose to people who don't know that, they just think it's kind of lazy, right? We always start 10 minutes late. Jeez, so tardy.
There it is. Okay. So our visit to Stardock the other day, Austin, got me thinking. Okay.
We should visit more studios.
100%. That was absolutely 100% a thought. Secondary thought. There is a 21-acre plot of land just down the street from us. Let's buy it, open multiple buildings, stick all of Michigan Game Dev in there, and have some fun.
In Saline?
Yeah. Ann Arbor, technically, I think. South State Street.
Oh, we won't. We can't afford property taxes on that.
I'm sure we can.
Oh, interesting. Well, uh, sounds good. Uh, let me know when your next game is that $1 billion hit. Sell it to Microsoft,
Sell to Microsoft.
and then we can do it. Okay.
Yes, open up a game dev warehouse.
That's right. That's right.
Everybody can do their own thing there and make some fun stuff.
Yeah. Rob is saying land is cheap in Mexico. It's also cheap in Iowa, South Dakota. So we've got plenty of options. We just need to push Ann Arbor over there, which
pick it up and move it.
Yeah, that could take a while.
Oh man. No, I remember walking in and seeing they have that second company that rents out the space there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, that's such an amazing idea." And I was like, "Man, if we get to the space where we're no longer renting space, but instead we own space." I was like, "I would love to do that. Rent out space, put some other devs in there, have things work out. Oh, be amazing."
Classic SpongeBob. Still holds up.
Always. Oh yeah, I completely agree, Rob. A game dev compound. That's better than a warehouse. I like that word better.
Compound sounds kind of like, I don't know, a villain's like fortress.
Okay.
The heroes are gonna raid it at the end of the movie. Throw us all out.
Warehouses for rent near me.
Well, there you go. You can rent it out.
Yeah, let's just do that. We'll just fill it full of computers, get some big fans. Campus. Okay, yeah.
We've been there within the Ann Arbor entrepreneurial community. There is some talk. There's some talk on the topic of creating tiny houses.
Mm.
So we have a lot of farmland that kind of surrounds the city. And so the plan was we were going to get a bunch of like train cargo crates, and we were going to live in those cargo crates, somehow get them hooked up to internet and sewer and all of that. And we would just create basically this commune of entrepreneurial startup founders, right? And yeah, Starlink could help us there for sure. But I don't know. I don't know if I want to live in an iron box in the summer or the winter, for that matter.
Yeah.
Either of those sound great.
The winters here are interesting.
Yeah.
Pretty packed live meeting space. We've got some people on Twitch now too. That's awesome. That's awesome.
However, what we don't have is background music.
Yes, we do. It's
We have
just probably
background
quiet.
Rip Groovy Bot.
Oh, did Groovy Bot bite the dust?
Yeah.
That thing was very popular.
Rest in peace. It was inevitable, but just when, you know.
Wait, so I think I saw something about this earlier. Google like banned it from scraping YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Okay. So that thing. It sounds like that thing was very hacky to begin with. Or in other words, you should probably expect a GroovyBot 2 to show up pretty soon. Oh, it's because they used it for commercial reasons. Oh, okay. Okay, well, chances are then it will probably get like it'll probably get some sort of open source version,
Yeah.
and we'll see that pop up everywhere. All right, I think we're just about ready to go, yeah?
Yeah, I think we're set.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, hey, thank you all so much for joining us. This is IGDA Ann Arbor, the August edition, and potentially one of our final few sessions totally virtual. We are working right now on finding a space that we can all have an in-person meeting at, and that's going to be a ton of fun when we get that done, okay? So it's only going to be another meeting or two. Thank you for hanging in there, and thank you for joining us tonight. So the way this usually works, right? Initially, we have 1 hour from about 7 to 8 of an industry speaker. Today, we have a fantastic industry speaker, Sara Secora, who is a veteran of the voice acting industry. And interestingly, she does not live in LA. She is based in Detroit, and she's had over 200 roles on various films, games in both the AAA space and indie space, games like Cloudpunk, Smite, all of that. And so we're going to learn a little bit about the world of voice acting and how you can use voice acting in your project, how you can find voice actors, and how you can get the most of that impactful relationship. Before that, do we have any community announcements? Anyone want to do a shout out? Anyone got any of their own events coming up? You can go ahead and raise your voice. Or you can post it into the voice chat channel right above our live meeting on the left. Okay?
Yep, if you post it, we'll read it out for you if you don't feel like it. If you're on Twitch right now, feel free to post it in the chat there. We'll read that out for you. I know that Stardock wanted us to announce a few of their job openings. As always, Stardock has some openings they're looking to fill. They have some art positions. They have an online game designer position that's very interesting for the design crowd. And for our more junior developers out there, they have an associate game developer position open and ready to go. So I would take a look over at stardock.com/careers. Austin's posted it in the voice chat for you. They are absolutely a wonderful crew to join and work with, and I strongly recommend it for anybody looking for a place to go.
Fantastic. And with that, I believe we're just about ready to go. So we'll go do our industry guest from 7 to 8. At 8, we'll take a tiny break and then come back with our community showcase. We'll have 5 speakers showing off various projects and getting feedback, okay? So please look forward to that at 8 p.m., okay? We'll wrap up about 9. All right. Sara, are you ready to go?
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. So my name is Sara Secora. I'm a voice actress. I'm a casting director. I've gotten a little bit into directing as well. I'm also an author. I kind of do everything, but the main thing that I do is voiceover for video games. That is kind of my bread and butter. So as you can see on the screen, there's a nice picture here of me in my booth. Totally not posed at all. I don't usually look that prim and proper when I record because in this day and age, we're all recording at home. So my name is Sara Secora, and I've worked in voiceover for almost 7 years, or actually almost over 7 years. We're almost getting to 8 the end of this year. I've done a lot of stuff. I've been really privileged to work on tons of projects across the board, including some commercials. I've done a little bit of anime. I've done a little bit of everything at this point. So if we go forward, here we go. Here are some of my games. Okay, so I've been doing a lot. I'm trying to pull my notes up. So sorry. Ah. Anyway, so here we go. I've worked on Visage, which was a really cool game that I did pretty early on in my career. I was doing horror video games a lot. I've done tons of horror video games. I've done Home Sweet Home 2. I've done Less From Beyond, which is a recent one that I also actually got to write for. I also write for video games on occasion, so I got to do something with that as well. Chernobyl Lite is the newest one that just released. I got to do that one, which was showcased at E3, which is really cool. A bunch of my games got promoted at E3 this year, which is a very fortunate thing. So yeah, voiceover is a complicated industry, to say the least, but it's also really fun. It can be fun for the devs involved, and it can be fun for the people that are doing the voiceover. And there's tons of people involved in the process of recording to, finalizing in a game, including directors and possibly agents and producers and sound engineers. And all these people make it possible so that voice actors like me can be in games. Okay. So when I started off, for the first, I want to say 6 years, it's primarily only indie games. So I did a lot of indie games for a really, really long time. One of the first games that I actually did was The Crow's Eye, which is a very small, near and dear to my heart indie game. That was one of the first games that actually let me aboard, and I still remember it. I was recording in my closet with a little USB microphone, which USB microphones are a big no-no. But when you start with what you got. And so I started with a little USB microphone on the floor, clothes hitting me in the head because I didn't want to take my clothes out. I didn't want to have to foam my closet. So I just made whatever I had work. And so I was doing that for a really long time, just these little indie games. But these little indie games actually can be quite amazing. Because games like Cloudpunk here is just an indie game that blew up, got a BAFTA nomination, and really took off. And now that entire studio is doing amazing off of something that most people would say is just a small indie game. But that's the day and age we're in, where indie games can be on the same kind of wavelength as AAA as far as actual success levels. So indie games were the staple and the foundation to my career. And so I don't take that lightly. I still work with them all the time. I'm not just voicing in them, but I'm also casting for them on the regular because they're so important in this industry. They're the backbone in a lot of ways because these are how people move up to be in AAA games and to make AAA game studios, is to start in an area where it is considered indie. So what is voiceover? Voiceover for me is quite an amazing thing. It's the most vital component to storytelling in video games and animations and you name it. It's everywhere. It's literally everywhere. And before I was in voiceover, I didn't really notice. But like, did you ever call an organization of any kind, let's say the DMV, for example, call them and then there's this person talking to you, telling you to press buttons to get to where you got to go? That's voiceover. When you're in an elevator and somebody says that you just arrived at floor 2, that's voiceover. It's literally everywhere in places you wouldn't normally even think about it. But the most important part for video games is the narrative storytelling. So voiceover is a huge component to that, and it's so important. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that because voiceover in video games can make or break narratives. You think about your favorite video games, the games that really stuck to you. I have examples here like Mass Effect and Skyrim and BioShock, games that I really loved. And they're all powered by voice actors being able to convey these really powerful stories. And so scripts are created, these amazing scripts made by amazing writers. But the way that those scripts are really brought to the people playing the game is through the mouth of a voice actor. It makes your voice actor really important. I think a lot of people don't understand the full weight of what a voice actor can bring to a game. Sometimes people don't find it as important and they might cut some corners because they want to save a buck, because voice acting is kind of in the indie world, I guess it can be a little bit intimidating. But I'm here to talk a little bit more about why it shouldn't be, why you should put importance on video game voiceover, and why even if you're an indie studio that's small, you can have realistic goals to bring actual voice actors into your game and bring the quality of a strong narrative, because that's really important. So I really want to talk more about that. Okay. So the difference between voiceover and good voiceover is night and day. Think about your iconic characters that you know and love. These people are bringing real, compelling, just honest views of people. Like, the thing about video games that's so interesting is it's not really cartoony anymore, right? We're looking at characters that are super realistic these days, incredibly realistic. When they cry, you want to cry because these moments are so heartfelt. So the thing that I really want to bring home today is thinking about the value of a voice actor and what it can really do for you. Okay. So these are some iconic characters I'm sure you know and love, and you can automatically think of their voices for a lot of these people. Why? Because that's part of them. A character's voice and their personality and is everything. As far as, you think about the visuals, but you also think about the voices. They're all one. Okay. So the important thing that we're going to talk about today is something that I've noticed with indie devs is that they want to save a buck. And so they go, hey, Timmy in the art departments. Do you want to take a swing at it? Because I've known that you wanted to be a voice actor, and we don't really want to pay for voice actors, so why not have Timmy in the art department? You are voice acting for this main character. And that might seem like a good idea at the time because you think you're helping out your friend and you think that you're saving money, and it's kind of like, okay, win-win. But this person might not have any voice acting training. Would you want me, somebody who's not an artist, to come in and do all the art for your game? Probably not. I'll do it for free, and I've always wanted to, but then your game is going to look like a bunch of stick figures. Probably not a good idea. The thing about voiceover is it is a career. It's something that people spend years perfecting. They spend a lot of time, money, and investing themselves into the art of something. This is the craft of voiceover. So it's not something that I would easily just say, yeah, just let anybody do it. This is your narrative. This is your iconic characters that you're making. If you love your game, then you should also bring in people who are practiced and trained in these areas specifically for whatever it is, including voiceover. Because the common thing that I see is that people don't view it as a career. And it actually is. A lot of people like myself are full-time making an entire living off of this. I work video games constantly. It's not easy, and I'll get more into that later. But for now, I really want you guys to understand from a dev perspective the importance of actually hiring voice actors in your project. And I'm going to talk more about how you can do that. For now, we're just going to talk about the importance, okay? So next, the expense, okay? I know you guys are probably sitting there like, well, I don't have enough money to afford voice actors. And I've heard that they cost a lot of money. And you're not wrong that it does cost money, just like anything else in life. But it's actually pretty affordable because most video games are non-union. So there's union, non-union, and this is specifically about the US market. There's different unions in different places, but we're talking about the US market here. The non-union is what I am. I'm non-union because I live in Michigan. I don't live in LA. And the odds of getting enough union work to stay full time is not looking favorable for me. So people in my position who are not in LA generally are non-union or FICOR, which means they can do both. So the point of this is that you can have a budget-friendly voiceover in your game because voiceover generally costs, if you're talking about average non-union rates, $200 to $350 an hour with a 2-hour minimum. If you're generous and you want to play fairly, I would say you should do that. But I've had many games where they don't offer the minimum and it's just like a flat $200, $250 an hour. I've done that so many times, and that is common. And you might think, wow, $200 an hour. I want that job. That's an insane amount of money per hour. I'm going to tell you why it's actually not. Why voice actors are actually not paid very well. Because if you think about it, a voice actor is going to come into your project. Let's say, 2 hours, 2 to 4 hours, I'd say is pretty general for voice actors to come in and record smaller scripts, which is for most indie games. I don't generally go in for more than that time. So let's just say for the sake of this, I come in for 2 hours. You don't offer me a minimum. You just pay me $200 an hour. I come in for 2 hours. It's $400. And then I'm gone. I don't get residuals. I don't get revenue. You can use those same lines and put them into, ads for, making trailers and things like that. You can reuse it. I never see another dollar. Let's say your game blows up and becomes like Phasmophobia. It blows up overnight and boom, it's now a top-selling game, but I never see another dollar. That's how it is for voice actors. We're coming in and we're being paid high hours, but if you really think about it, we have no wage in the game sales. We are just in and we're out. We are work for hires. Okay? And it's actually not as lucrative as it may seem when you see that high price, but that also means it's affordable to you. $400 to have your main character voiced by an actual professional voice actor, that's a pretty good deal. Now, obviously, I would tell you that you want to stay in that range, and going below would be pretty unfair. There are people that'll say, I'll give you $50 and a pack of Skittles if you can voice my character. And that's not cool to do to people because these people are spending a lot of money on the equipment, the training, the time, and everything they're doing. It is a job and should be treated as such. So I'm trying to just kind of paint a picture of why the rates are high, but why it's actually still not enough money. There was a union strike for video games not that long ago because the amount of money that voice actors are being paid for these games that are tearing their voices apart, the way the whole system is working on the union and non-union side is just not great. But that's at the current time that we're at, it's still very affordable for anybody, in my personal opinion, to really invest in voiceover. Okay, so we're going to the next slide here. The process of recording voice actors. So the very first stage is generally auditioning. You would send a voice actor a script, which we call sides or lines or audition lines, whatever you want to call it. You would send them the script, maybe a couple of lines, 3, 4, 5 lines. You'd send a little bit of a description of the character. You'd say this character is a woman in her 50s with a British accent. You know, she's got a bad temper and she's not afraid to show it or something like that, just to give people a taste, an idea of who it is you're looking for. And then the actor goes into the booth. They record. Generally, when it's an indie game, non-union, we self-direct. But in some cases, directors do come in and they direct us live. They'll come in through Skype or Zoom or Source Connect Standard, which is a great program, which can patch in live. And the sound engineer and the director can actually get the files immediately as they come through in their own system, which is really cool. Really helpful when it comes to dubbing as well. And then after that, they'll send the files either through the patch in, which they have automatically, or they'll email it. Then you go through the stage of they got to go through all the lines, make sure all the lines work in the game. They'll check for if any pickups are required. Generally, we call it like pickups. That's the word for like fixing anything that went wrong. Like, hey, I need a pickup on line 3 because there was a weird little artifact in the voice, or you didn't pronounce this correctly. And those sessions are usually free. If it depends, some people do charge, some people don't. How I view it is if I made an error, I fix it. But if you were to say, hey, here's a pickup, and here I added 4 new lines, that would be a new session. That's usually how that goes. Post-production. Okay, so this is after the lines are done, after everything's sent in, then you'd have a sound engineer sit down and work on it. You'd have them cleaning up the audio, making sure the levels are correct, making sure there's no noise that you don't want, and doing anything like that. Payment. So usually an actor gets paid after they record. So you'd be paid through maybe PayPal or checks or however you need. It depends on the company itself. And then optional if you need to send any paperwork beforehand, which is like the NDAs and the tax forms and agreeing that this person now has the rights to use this audio and whatnot to just, do the legal stuff. So as I put here, there are a lot of people involved in voiceover in the process if you're doing it on a bigger scale. If you're doing it just between a dev and an actor, usually that's it. You got one dev who will just email you, be like, here's the lines, here's what we're doing, and then the actor just goes and does it and sends it over. That's simplified. But in bigger projects, sometimes there's sound engineers patched in live. There's voice directors, they're live. There's producers there listening to the conversation and making sure everything is going the way they want. It's sometimes a very, very involved process. Okay, so next, we're going to be talking a little bit about how you can get voice actors. So the first option would be like a casting director such as myself. I have tons and tons of voice actors on a roster ready to go right now to any project that I take on. I just send them the information. I handle it. I handle the casting portion. I handle the auditions. I handle the selection. I handle the process of them getting the script going and actually recording and sending it back. So it kind of takes all that hassle off of the devs' plates and they can just focus on what they need to do. So that's a really great option if you're looking for a mid-range kind of price where you want help and you need somebody to take it off your plate, but you don't really want to invest tons of money. Similar, you can also go with an agent who does kind of the same thing, but with usually a larger fee. Depending on the agent you go to, you can go for some of the top actors in the world if you have the budget for it. Then you would need to consider union in that case, which would be a lot more money and a whole other topic in itself. But agents for, I would say indies, I would say don't do that. That's more of a larger scale thing. But I just wanted to tell you your options in case you were curious. These are all of the options that you can do. Production companies such as Okatron, which I adore Okatron 5000. They are fantastic. They helped me with Smite. I recorded with them. They directed me. They handle the casting. They are fantastic. They do a bunch of animes as well. They're great. Keyword Studios, awesome company. And there's plenty more. You can just Google full service audio production. You'll find tons of them online. They're all different costs, but they would be probably your priciest option because not only would they be handling the casting, they would be doing the editing, they would be doing the live direction, they would be directing all these actors remotely but live. So that would probably be your priciest option, but also your most like it can't really go wrong kind of option. Lastly would be do it yourself. You can go on casting websites like Voice 123, Backstage, Actors Access. You can also go to Skills Hub, which I don't have on here, but we'll talk more about Skills Hub soon. Skills Hub is a place where you can go right now and post your casting calls by yourself for free, and it does have a lot of awesome actors on there. It's a brand new website made by Jennifer Hale, who is the voice of Commander Shepard, and she is a fantastic woman. I do want to really talk about what it's like for me being in Michigan and being a voice actor that's here and not in LA. Because when I started out, I was told that you had to be in LA to be a successful voice actor. I was told that over and over and over, that I would never amount to the things I wanted to do until I moved to LA. That was 8 years ago almost. And I can tell you that I'm one stubborn person who loves my state. I don't want to leave it. I think that there's so much here. There's a quality of life here that I don't think is in LA. You know, just the cost of living, the pollution, the overpopulation, everything there just it doesn't appeal to me. So I want to be here. My home. I'm born and raised here. And the thing that I've seen, I've worked with indie devs from Michigan in the past. I've seen them fall. They were once a great studio and they fell because the industry is not here and it's hard. But we're in a new age now with the pandemic. And I do see that people have more opportunities now to work remotely, including myself, including devs. So I don't think that necessarily you have to leave your home to create an industry here. I do think that remote is going to help that for some people. And I do think if we band together and we support one another, that we can have a future together because I'm here for the long haul. I will be here probably forever. I don't foresee myself leaving. And I would love to see a stronger game development side in Michigan because it's something that I think can come back. There's been little residuals here and there, but I think it's something that can be stronger. So doing things like this where we come together and we support one another and we talk about things and we figure things out, I think is really helpful. Because remote, I'm going to go to the next slide now. Remote is the future for pretty much everything. Not even just video games and stuff like that, but literally, I think just about everything. This pandemic changed so much for us. Me as a voice actor, I was told another thing specifically is I want to do dubbing for anime. I was told you will never dub for Funimation in Michigan. You have to be in LA or you have to be in Texas. Those are the only places that do dubbing. You have to be in person. The pandemic hit, that changed. And I think that's not only the stuff that's happening with dubbing and animation, but it's also, I've seen it with video games. I got into so many AAA titles when the pandemic happened because no longer was it like, hey, you have to be in LA recording live in our studio. It opened the door to everybody because everybody was recording at home, even those in LA. So there was no longer this like gatekeeping. And remote recordings are seriously easier than ever, and I cannot stress this enough. If you have things like Source Connect or even Zoom and Skype, you can be talking to these actors live and hearing what they're doing and making suggestions and being part of the process if you wish to. I mean, granted, like I said before, a lot of indie devs don't even do that, and they just give you the script and tell you to record. It depends how you want to go about the process, but there are so many options now. It's so important to know your options because these are the things that we need to know and be aware of so that we can continue to grow. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about being an actual voice actor because we talked a lot about the depth stuff. I think a lot of people here, because I get it all the time, I get it in my emails, in my DMs, everywhere. Hey, I want to be a voice actor. I can do this really cool impression. My friends have always told me that I should be a voice actor. How do I do it? Well, step one is I want to be a voiceactor.com. This is the best resource possible online that has just everything you need to just look at immediately and just go, okay, I got the lowdown. Now, it's not going to change overnight. You're going to read this website and you're going to become a voice actor the next day. But it's a good start. It's a good start to understand kind of the industry, what you need to do, the proper steps you need to take. These things are really important. And this resource has been made for this very reason. People always say, I want to be a voice actor. How do I do it? Now, the voice acting community in itself is super supportive, but the voice acting industry is kind of veiled. It's kind of mysterious. Nobody really knows off the bat. It's kind of like these people live behind a microphone and nobody really knows anything about them. But the act of becoming a voice actor is such a challenging thing. It takes years because the thing that you really need to focus on with being a voice actor is the acting. Not so much the voice. Voice is secondary. Most things that I record are in my own voice. It's the acting that primarily is needed to learn and to obtain to really excel in this career. So if you would like to be a voice actor, I highly suggest that you go to that website and you read about it. Now, I always tell people, I know some people will disagree with me, but I don't think that voiceover is truly, if you boil it down, a hobby. If we're talking about on the level that I'm talking about it today, sure, if you want to do fan dubs or things like that, that's a whole other story. If you want to do it for free, for fun, but I'm talking about it in more of a career sense. And in the career sense, there's a lot of steps you have to take to get there. Things like learning. You have to go and you have to learn. Doing seminars and workshops and improv classes and doing one-on-one coaching with people that are doing what you want to be doing. Learning the commercial way, learning the character way, learning how to do audiobook narration. There's so many different avenues in voiceover you can take. It's not just video games. In fact, video games is one of the worst avenues to take. It's one of the most competitive, the most difficult to obtain, and it doesn't pay very well. So if you're really looking to be a voice actor because you think that, like, hey, I'll be famous, I'll be rich, it'll be great, I hate to break it to you, probably not. It's very difficult, very demanding, hurts your voice sometimes. I can't tell you the amount of horror games I've had to do where I just scream my head off, and by the end, I feel like I have pneumonia. It's a challenging, demanding, very competitive career where you are constantly facing rejection, and you got to be okay with it. And not to mention, when you do go into a project and it becomes public and people are kind of mean about it sometimes because it's the internet, you gotta have thick skin in this industry. Not everybody's gonna be nice to you or tell you that you did a good job. You gotta be okay with that. So it is an industry in itself. It weighs on you and it's difficult, but it is rewarding because at the end of the day, if you're going to spend years working on this thing, spending everything you got to get here, like I have, it took about 5 years for me to even get to a point where I was seeing consistent growth and I was getting to a place I wanted to be. By year 6, I was full time. It's not something that's easy for some people. It's kind of, I've seen people get broken up about it, defeated by it. Takes a certain person with a certain determination and grit to get to this place. But if you're interested, I do encourage you to go to that website. I also am a coach. I teach voice acting along with a lot of other people that are super great on Jennifer Hale's new platform, Skills Hub. You can go to the website that's there. I think they're going to share it as well. It's super affordable with some of the people on there, like myself. I make sure that I keep my prices really, really low so that you can get on there and actually learn and get the most out of your money. Because the thing is, you're gonna have to learn a lot. And if you're spending tons of money on just one class, it's not easy. But I was there. I was spending upwards of $300 an hour to learn from certain coaches. It is very draining. It will put a hole in your pocket. Not to mention my studio, as you can see here, my cat Carmine. He likes to go in my booth and he shouldn't. That studio you're looking at right there was custom built, but it took a very long time because I spent thousands of dollars on that. That microphone alone up there is the Neumann TLM 103, which I do believe is about a $11 or $1,200 microphone. These things cost a lot of money, and you have to invest that even at a point where it's like you're not making it back. You're just hoping for the future. So voiceover is a very demanding thing, but it's worth it if you're willing to do it. So for me, here I am, my website, my email, my Twitter. I'm available to teach people coaching. I'm available for voice acting, and I'm also available for casting work. I don't know what the time is now. If I've gone too quickly here, let me see.
No, this
I
is good.
go.
Uh, so, so if your presentation is done, we got a lot of time for Q&A. Okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to speed read, but I just want to make sure that I'm not wasting people's time and that
No
they're getting the
worries.
information.
So everyone, you've got questions, go ahead and throw them into the presenter Q&A channel, or if you're watching on Twitch, throw them into the chat. I will make sure they get to Sarah, okay?
Okay. Let's tackle that one at a time. So, what was the first one there? Okay, so So a healthy workflow depends on the person. So some people I know are working, day jobs and they're quite busy. So for them, maybe the workflow is a couple auditions every other day or maybe on the weekends. For me, I try to audition every day because this is something that I'm doing full time. But there's times where I don't have anything to do that day. And that's fine too. I kind of take that time to reflect or, do something other than work, and that's totally fine. But I do think auditioning frequently will up your chances of being booked. So you should kind of sit back and go, okay, is this my full-time job? I need to make sure that I'm always having something. So you need to balance that. Um, with the burnout, I do have times where I'm like, I just can't today. I just cannot. My voice hurts. I'm tired. I have a headache, and I push things aside. A client will ask, like, "Hey, are you available today?" I'll say, "No, I'm actually not. Can we do this tomorrow?" And in most cases, that's okay. There are times where you get rush jobs and rush auditions that are like 24-hour turnaround, and in those cases, you need to be honest and open with the people if you're able to achieve that. But I do not think that it's something that is really that problematic as long as you're honest with yourself about what you need and you have realistic goals. I think that if you're going on a bigger scale, let's say Skyrim or some kind of MMO type game or an RPG type game where you have a lot of voice actors, probably you're going to need somebody to help manage that. In my particular case, being a casting director, I have helped people manage more of their scale of what they're trying to do and been realistic with them about the budget and the practicalities of it and what you're going to need to do. So I do think it could help if you have a big scale that you're trying to obtain.
Awesome. Now we're gonna pop over to the presenter Q&A questions channel. So we have a question asking, when recording in your closet early in your career, did you find clothes dampen slash reduce the noise, increasing the quality?
Yeah, in a way, because if you're just in a wooden closet or a plaster walled closet, you're gonna have a lot of bouncing sound. It's gonna sound really echoey, really just awful. So the clothes, I mean, they worked for me. They were kind of annoying and it wasn't very comfortable, but it was helpful when I didn't want to invest a lot of money in the beginning. Because when you're just starting out, investing a bunch of money in something that you're not even sure is gonna be something that you're gonna chase a year or two down the line, it's smart to just use what you have in the beginning and get a start and then kind of slowly, get those things that you need.
Awesome. So we have a question from Garrett. Voice actors require specific skills for each genre of voiceover. What are some specific skills voice actors should train for to work with game projects?
Specifically, one really good one is battle efforts. So I was just teaching this to my students yesterday. Battle efforts are, the sword sounds, the pain sounds, the dying sounds, the jumping, the running. These are really important things that you need to learn that not a lot of the other genres are going to need. I guess it could be possible, but when it comes to character work, you really need to learn how to make these things come alive. And sometimes with great intensity, if we're talking about games that are, war games or fighting games, you need to be able to bring that alive. So that's something that is very specific to video games and even animation, where you need to learn how to fight and make it, you have the sound effects come alive.
Awesome. And on the other end, what should game dev teams look for in their VA skill sets?
So you should look at someone's resume. If you're looking for somebody who's more practiced. Now there are different levels. You could also hire a more beginner actor and understand that. And maybe give them their chance if you believe they're a good fit. But if you're looking for more of a seasoned professional, I would be looking at their resumes. Usually they have websites, look at their demo. Obviously, you should audition them, have them record something for the character that you're interested in having them, and see how it plays out. Sometimes people take my auditions, they put them in their game. They really test them, see if they like what they hear. And if they don't, they come back and go, it doesn't really fit the scene. Can we adjust it a little bit just to make sure we're making the right choice with you and maybe have you do it a little bit differently this time? And those things can really help.
That's awesome. That's actually super helpful. Um, so for those on a budget or just dabbling in voiceover, who cannot afford to construct a high quality recording booth, is there a way to get access to this equipment through rental, maybe local universities? Any ways that you might know of?
So other than converting closets, as we've talked about, maybe a lot of people buy acoustic blankets and just get
Mm.
pipes, and they build like a pipe kind of structure and they just put the acoustic blankets over it. You can literally just put an actual blanket over your head and do it that way. I've had people in the beginning tell me like, it's kind of echoey. Can you put a blanket over your head? Literally anything you can do to not have the sound reverberate all awful and sound really tinny, and just do your best to create a space, because more importantly than the microphone is the space you're recording in. Even if you have a really great microphone but you're recording in a bathroom, it's going to sound bad. That's just the reality of it. So you need to just focus on getting the sound to not reverberate in a very awful way, dampening the sound to the best of your ability with anything that you have. I mean, putting pillows around you and huddling in a corner. I mean, do what you got to do,
Yeah.
really.
I mean, us at Azure Ravens, we only use the highest quality equipment. We got a bunch of moving blankets. We nailed that on
It
the wall
works. It works.
for our one of our itch games. So we have Voice of JK asking, what was the most game-changing career move you can recall making? Was it a certain gig that you got, a certain casting site, or just plain old elbow grease?
Well, I wouldn't say there's ever like a I made it moment, but I would say one of the moments that probably hit me the most, and I remember crying hysterically, was when I just got done recording for Funimation's Log Horizon, which was my first anime. And I was so excited because I was told I would never do that. So I was on cloud nine. And then right after I was done, I went to go sit down. I checked my email and I just was told that I got cast in Warframe. And I just remember crying, hysterically crying, because I was like, wow, it's not that I've made it, but I just felt validated in everything I've been doing, because everyone said you would never be able to achieve that from Michigan, and I proved them wrong. And that was that moment where I was like, dang, that was a big moment in my career. But I don't think that the need to do more ever stops. Like I'm more hungry than ever. I want more.
Oh yes, I can understand that. Um,
Yeah.
Nigel asks, what would you say your favorite project to be a voice actor for was? It could be a game or other media, and why?
Oh wow, that's my favorite. Well, in recent memory, I would say one of my most exciting and fun and flawless sessions was for Smite, when I got to be Daji's sandcastle slasher for one of the new updates. I played Smite since it came out, so for me, it was really cool to be in that game. I remember the director was telling me like, "Oh, this is what this means in the game." I'm like, "Bruh, I play the game, I know." And so that was a really cool experience to be able to be part of something that I played for so long. I think another really big one for me was Visage. I love horror games. I've always loved horror games. It's been important to me. And for me, Visage was like one of the coolest horror games at that time. And I got the role not knowing I was in Visage, because sometimes they will say it's Project Code Name and they won't tell you what it is. So I auditioned and got it and was recording for it, and I still didn't know what it was for a long time. And when I finally found out that I was like one of their main villains, as well as several other characters for that game, it was just mind blowing. So those are really cool experiences for me. I mean, all of them are important for whatever reason at that time. But I would say those two right now stick out to me.
That's awesome. So many voice actors have significant followings and influence online. When you hire a voice actor, is it worth considering this? The idea that you're hiring not only a great talent, but also a great advocate for your game?
I mean, here's the thing. We always say that your social media account should not equate to your talent. And I do say that all the time, that there's people that I've discovered through casting that I'm like, wow, I've never heard of this person. I try to Google them, nothing comes up, but they're amazing. There's diamonds in the rough all the time. But some people do have a following because of, the traction they've made and the accomplishments they have. So it's not to say that that's never important, but it should also be considered that maybe somebody just hasn't been discovered yet. So don't discount those people just because they don't have a social media following.
Awesome. So Nick says, I see a lot of casting calls recently calling for demo reels. When you're working with an amateur voiceover actor without established resumes, what are you looking for as a casting director in regards to those reels?
For some people, they're not at that stage. I always tell people you should be several years in before you really invest in demos, because sometimes demos cost upwards of several thousands of dollars. I'm one of those people that does not believe you need to spend that much to have a good demo, but some people will tell you otherwise. So for me, when somebody comes up to me and they're like, I would like to be on your casting roster, try for this, or I'm doing a public casting call and they're like, I don't have a demo. In that case, we're doing auditions, and auditions are really the thing that I need to listen to. I need to hear, do they
Hmm.
have the instinct? Do they have the vocal profile that I need for the specific specs? These are things that I look for, but also on top of that, very importantly, somebody needs to have good audio quality. I can't tell you how many times somebody's been a great actor, but their audio is awful. And so for that reason alone, I can't put them in the game. So these things are more important than demos at this time. You should have a demo at some point, but if you're not ready to make one, the important part is get it when you're ready because you will outgrow it super quickly, which will be a waste of time and money unless you're doing it correctly.
Awesome. What are your opinions on Fiverr?
Personally, don't like it. Personally, think it undermines the industry. The thing that I talked about earlier about like there's a certain amount of money that we expect to be paid as voice actors. The reason for that is to sustain this as a career for people who are investing all of this into it, like myself. If I can't tell you how many times people have told me I'll just go on Fiverr or can you take this job for $7? And if I say no, it's like they get upset. And the reality is they don't understand the value of it as a career. So I'm trying to really bring that home. And I think Fiverr has a good place for a lot of industries, but when it comes to voiceover, it does undermine what a voice actor should be paid. And so for that, I am not a big fan, but I don't fault the people that are on there because I think they're just doing their best.
When it comes to coaching and workshops, what are your suggestions for those new to the field? Should we focus on a single coach or a group, or should we branch out as far as possible to wherever we can learn?
I've been telling my students I'd love to see them a few times, but after a certain point, maybe a couple of sessions between maybe 5 and 10, I do think that they should part ways from me. And I think they should, go to other coaches, learn from them, because I've had many coaches over the years. And sticking with just one, you only learn from their knowledge pool. And I think every coach has something different to teach. And I've pulled little nuggets of wisdom from a bunch of different coaches that have really changed my career and things that stick with me to this day. And so I think moving around is really important.
Awesome. Looks like we have somebody typing a question. In the meantimes, on Twitch, if you guys have any questions, feel free to post them in the Twitch chat, or you can drop them in the Discord. Again, we're still taking questions in the presenter Q&A channel. This has been an awesome presentation so far. It's super helpful to kind of get an understanding of, from a studio's perspective, what's
A
expected.
little flustered, so I apologize, but
No.
I'm doing my best.
No, you're doing wonderful. No, it's
I'm a
been...
voice actor, but I'm not a public speaker. It's different. It's
Yes.
a different thing.
It looks like Yusuke has a question. What are some characteristics of a bad voice actor or bad voice acting?
I wouldn't want to say that like a bad voice actor is like this certain thing and put them in a box and make them feel bad, but I will say beginner mistakes as opposed to bad traits. Beginner things that I've noticed is when people are afraid of the microphone or they lack confidence. So they'll do things like we were just talking about this the other day when you need to do a call out, like you're projecting your voice from across the room. And I'm not going to do it now because I don't want to peek the microphone. But when you're doing a call out, say Call of Duty, and you're like, check your flank, and you're yelling, they do that. They kind of do the check your flank. They kind of hold their voice in, and it's like they want to yell, but they're not able to yell and they're afraid. And being afraid of the microphone or afraid of sounding silly or afraid of making a mistake, that is the key thing that you got to get over in the beginning is having the confidence that you're going to make mistakes. Some people are going to laugh. I've done so many sessions where I say something, my voice cracks, we all laugh and we move on. Don't be afraid, and that's the thing. And also being able to project your voice to have the intensity needed and to make it believable because really what you're doing as a voice actor for video games is you're lying to people very well so that they believe you're somebody you're not, and you need to be able to do that in a believable way because if even you don't believe it, how are they going to believe it? So it's just getting that confidence.
Awesome. How do you battle burnout? Not your voice, but your mind.
Talked a little bit about burnout, but I would say just recharging. I love playing video games. The reason I'm a video game voice actor, I guess I didn't touch on this in my presentation, so I will really quickly. My origins of becoming a voice actor, I never wanted to be one. I never thought about it. In fact, early on, I wanted to be like an author, a writer, a lawyer, all these other things, not a voice actor. I never really thought it was possible for me because I suffer from really bad anxiety and I was never like, wow, I want to be an actor. It just didn't go in my head. But I was a YouTube Let's Player. My channel was AV Gaming. I posted on it for a really long time and I was doing a lot of Let's Plays for horror games and various indie games. And people would comment all the time saying, I just come on your video to listen to you. I love that you narrate these little messages you find. You should be a voice actor. And people kept saying these things. So eventually I just tried it. I just went, you know what, everyone keeps saying this, and I'm intrigued. They piqued my curiosity. So I started going down the path, and it was a very long, confusing path that I took. But eventually it turned into this love of this because I've always been a gamer. Ever since I was a kid, I remember I would be kind of bugging my brother, like, can I play your consoles, and can I, and then eventually I convinced my mom to get me a Nintendo 64, which was my first console of my own. She said, "Don't you want Barbies? Don't you want these things?" I'm like, "No, I want Nintendo and I want Pokemon Stadium." And that was like the first game I
Oh,
owned, and it's all I played for a really, really, really long time.
such a good
And then I
game.
started getting Game Boys, and I branched out to Game Cubes, and now I'm playing tons of Xbox and Switch, and I have a gaming computer as well. So it's just kind of like, for me, it's come full circle that I love video games so much that now I'm in them, and now people are doing let's plays of me, and it's just crazy.
That's awesome. So Garrett asks, for game devs, what can they do to help make sure their voice actor is being taken care of during a strenuous session, so that their voice isn't destroyed on their project, and so that they're comfortable and enjoying it?
So here's the thing about that. I recorded for Home Sweet Home 2, which was a Thai horror game, and I was their main character slash main villain. Well, I wasn't the playable, but I was like the one you were going around learning about. Her name was Ratri, and I had to do a lot of screaming. So the mistake they made during that recording was I did all of the screaming and like the evil villain portions at the beginning, and at the end they wanted me to do the talking. It should be reversed. Whenever you're doing sessions where there's screaming, call outs, battle efforts, you do that at the very, very end because that will tear someone's voice apart and they will start sounding hoarse and raspy and all that. You don't want that. So always do that at the end. And you can always check in, be like, hey, if we need a 5-10 minute break, let me know. If your voice is feeling too fatigued, we can reschedule for another day to do another session. Be aware of what the voice actor is going through and talk to them and things like that. You can always break it up into multiple days if you need to.
Awesome. Yusuke asks, do you need to understand the language you're reading to voice it?
Absolutely. I do not voice in anything other than English. There are voice actors in every language you could imagine. There's people all over that can do every accent you could imagine, everything. If the person is like, even just accents, even if it's in the English language, I won't do them unless I'm comfortable with holding them and I know them. Because you want people to understand, the kind of this authentic age of casting that we're in. People want to hear what's actually supposed to be on screen. So if you have somebody who's just trying to read Japanese, but obviously doesn't know, it's just gonna be horrible. You don't want that.
Awesome. So it looks like Kate asks, from your knowledge, how much overlap is there between voice acting and recording music, especially singing, for video games? And is there any advice that you would have that would apply to that?
I know a lot of voice actors that also sing. That's definitely something they ask. If you're signing up for a roster with an agent, they're like, "Can you sing?" And usually you'd have a separate demo for that. I do not do singing, but I have done a little bit of singing for a few games because I don't consider myself a professional by any means, but if you're gonna hold a basic tune, sometimes they'll still ask you to do it if it's something small. So I think it's a great avenue to use if you have the ability to do it. Definitely, if you're a voice actor, you should use anything you have to further yourself. Which having more options, the things that you're able to do and available for, is a really good thing because then you have more opportunities.
Awesome. So from Twitch, we have you ever had a script that you just knew was going to be pure cheese or awkward to act out?
Oh yeah, and I'll talk to them about that. So I work with a lot of indie devs, and a lot of them are, their first language is not English.
Hmm.
So it'll say something really awkward. I'm like, that's some broken English. So I'll tell them like, hey, some of this is written kind of poorly. Can I go through and change it to make it more natural? And they're excited by that. They love that. They're like, yes, please fix it. So that's not necessarily something that we have to do. And being that I work with a lot of indies and non-unions, work, that's something that, it's not something that's expected of us, but I don't mind doing it. I think it's up to the actor what they're comfortable with. So for me, that's something I've done a lot, and sometimes I ad lib. Even people who speak English absolutely fine and they write scripts, but they write them super stiff. So like, sometimes you just need to make it a little looser. People don't
Hmm.
usually talk super, technical. So you make it a little more slang friendly and it sounds a little more natural. So I'll do that sometimes too if I'm allowed.
That's awesome. So we have the question of what are some basic daily exercises people can do to work out, and I imagine they mean their voice.
So there are like vocal warm-ups, which I'm guilty that I don't do them enough. The thing that I like to do for practice, which is not necessarily daily, but sometimes it's mimicking what I hear. So I'll hear video games lines, I'll mimic them, just not to steal them, but to get kind of, I don't know, it's just like a fun little thing that I like to do for myself. I also like to do a lot of monologues. So I'll find a monologue online or in a book and I'll just record it on my own. And just it's good practice. So exercising your ability to act is super important.
Awesome. So who are some actors that you've enjoyed working with?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I don't want to start naming people because I'm gonna forget everyone else, and I'm gonna feel really bad. Um, there's just the acting community in itself is so wonderful. They're so supportive. There's on Twitter. There's just so many actors on there that support one another. We make announcements, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, get it! You did so great!" And everybody on there is super helpful. I remember one time I needed to learn a New York accent on the fly for this audition. I haven't like a dialect coach that I can go to, but she wasn't available. So I just went on there. I was like, any actors that know how to do this, help me real quick. I need to do this audition. And so I had an actor come through, record the lines for me in that accent just so I could hear it. And then I was able to go and I got the job. So it was really, really nice. And that's just the community. They help you. And so I really love that. But I can't say specifically actors because there's literally hundreds, thousands. I just don't want to start naming people.
That's awesome. Do we have any other questions? People in the chat room, people on Twitch, anybody with questions? I mean, this has just been an absolutely phenomenal presentation.
A little flustered, but yeah,
Hey, you're
definitely
doing
tripping up my
great.
words.
You're doing great. I think we have somebody in chat who posted that you're doing great. So you
Thank
are
you.
doing excellent.
I'm trying.
So it looks like we have like 2 or 3 more questions coming in. We'll probably wrap that up with those.
Final questions.
Yep. So final
Okay.
questions from Garrett. What was your acting experience before you decided to become a voiceover actress?
Okay. Well, this is gonna blow your mind, but none. I had no experience whatsoever. I've been learning for almost 8 years now through the process of actually doing it. But like I said, for the first I don't know, between 1 to 4 years was just really a learning process. I was doing some small little like non-paid things and occasionally a really low-paying thing, but the first 4 years was really just heavily me learning. And the act of learning can sometimes be easier when you're doing projects because you kind of like get out of that like in your head, I'm scared to do this, I don't know how to do it kind of mindset when you're actually putting it to practice. So during those 4 years, it was a lot of me learning for people, but also me applying what I learned. And even if I wasn't getting jobs, I was auditioning all the time. That was all practice in itself, too. So I had no experience, and you don't have to. I know a lot of people who come from a theater background or an on screen background and start to do voiceover, and it can help, but it can also not help. It depends on the person. You don't have to have an acting background to get into VO, but you actually have to spend that time learning before you start getting anywhere with it. So you can decide today that you want to become a voice actor with no background, but just know you're going to have a very long journey of acting ahead of you.
And then the final question is, when has a voiceover artist made it?
I don't think there's ever a point where somebody truly like makes it unless you're talking about like Troy Baker, Laura Bailey, Jennifer Hale level. If you're talking about them, obviously they're the top-notch people. Nolan North, all of them, they're in everything. There's a reason. But the average voice actor, even in myself, uh, there's no point where you've made it. Everything kind of is like a Lego effect on top of the other, and you're building a really big tower. So you're just kind of trying to get all these pieces together so that you're like, hey, look at all the stuffs that I do, because whenever I go tell people about my work, I generally only name a couple of things because I'm not going to sit there and name every single thing I've done, but it helps. It's all momentum, and I think the momentum really makes it easier. So you want to build the momentum so that you can get to a place where you're consistently able to make this a living, because there is no job stability at all. So every month is a fresh start and you got to keep going.
Awesome. Thank you so much again for the presentation. It has been a
Welcome.
blast.
Glad to hear it.
So Austin, 10-minute break?
I think so. Let's make it a little bit more like 5. So
5
I believe
minutes?
We're already ready to go.
Awesome.
Everyone, again, thank you so much, Sarah Secora. Anyone who's looking for voices in their indie game, Sarah can help. Reach out, follow her on Twitter. We'll post some of this stuff in just a bit. Okay. Thank you so much, Sarah.
And make sure to stick around. We're doing the community showcase here in just about 5 minutes. All right. I'm going to step away for a second. I'll be right back.
All right,
Yeah,
Yusef,
transfer
are you
music
ready to
back on,
go?
too.
We'll go ahead and get you
Yes.
set up.
Hello. Okay.
Fantastic. Okay, so we'll go ahead and give you the presenter role. There
Okay.
we are.
I will be
And,
right back. I'll turn my camera back on when I get back.
All right. All right, you can share your screen when you're ready. We'll wait for Corbin to get back, and then you'll have 5 minutes to show us anything you want, to talk about anything you want, and then we will have 5 minutes for Q&A, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Let me test this real quick while we're on our break.
So Sarah had a fantastic presentation about voice acting. Is anyone pumped up to go do some voice acting right now? I kind of want to hop into the recording booth. It seems so much fun. It was, so the University of Michigan has a recording booth in Groundworks that is free, it's very high quality, and has a very high quality microphone. You can get, approaching pro level recording quality in that booth. And, the Voice Acting Club, which I just posted in the voice chat, is a place with a lot of auditions. Many of them are unpaid, but if you're just looking for, to have a little bit of fun on a very cheap project, then give it a shot. Apply to some projects and see what happens. I think Yusef, we can hear a bunch of background noise. I think.
Oh, really? Let me lower my mic sensitivity.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if that doesn't work, I can move somewhere else where the fans aren't as loud.
Very interesting. It sounds like someone's kind of packing snow repeatedly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's very strange. It's almost charming.
Okay, is that any better?
Pretty awesome.
I believe it is. Can you do a testing?
Okay.
One, two?
1, 2, 3, testing, testing. If it's still bad, I can hop over to a different room real quick since there's still
We're
couple
good.
minutes
I
left.
can only
Okay.
hear it when you're talking. That's fine.
Okay. Fortunately, we have to switch from a very nice quality microphone presenter to me with my not so nice quality microphone.
No worries. So is the game available in demo format?
Not at the moment. That's what I'm working on now, the first public demo, but in the Discord server we started playtesting already. So anyone who
Okay.
wants to help with the playtesting can.
Yeah, I'll
And
post your Discord server if you like in
Okay.
just a sec while you're
Yes.
talking.
That'd be great.
Awesome. All right, Corbin, you ready to go? Yeah, I can't see your screen, Yusef.
Okay. I will close it and open it again.
Okay.
Yeah, Rob, some studios do rent out time as well. I know Austin posted that U of M has a free recording booth that you can use as well. I know once we get ours up and running, we plan to use that as an option for people to come in and use the space for free as well. All right, we can see everything now.
Okay, cool. Work if I hop full screen like this.
Loading?
Loading.
You're good to go.
Okay, cool.
Are you ready? You've got 5 minutes.
Alright,
3,
so
2, 1, go.
okay, this is Doki Toki, Time Slows Down When You're in Love. I think the best way to give you a quick idea is to show you the teaser trailer here. Hopefully it loads. we'll come back to that, I guess. Oh. Okay, we'll come back to that. But basically, it's a game about first-person puzzle game about manipulating objects in time. You can freeze them, unfreeze them, move them around, and the idea is to have key puzzles, as the creator of Baba Is You calls them, inspired by that game, where the puzzles will be difficult brain teasers, but once you know how to solve them, the actual solution is very easy to execute. It should only take a couple of minutes to execute. Since it's first person, the style is more like Portal or Talos Principle, where you have a bunch of different gadgets that you use to solve the puzzles. And the other core component of it is the anime style story, I can show you in the trailer. And hopefully the trailer doesn't give off too much of an impression of a hardcore visual novel. It's more like a linear story with some light visual novel elements, some scenes where you can choose the dialogue, and you meet different characters along the way as you solve these puzzles, and find the character that you're searching for this whole time. And so this is the first time I'm working on a big game like this. And I'm in the process of revamping the visuals. These are some very recent designs that are updated from the trailer. The right is the new design for the main character, and on the left are some of the new items with some upgraded visuals and shaders that you use to control the different objects. So you can use those envelopes on the left to freeze objects in time, and the keys on the right to unfreeze them. And so there's another clip here. This one's shorter, so hopefully it loads. That gives you an idea of what the game looks like. Still a very early version, so it's a little rough. And here, that item is being frozen in place, and there's some little text effects here, just to give you an idea that the main effort right now is to improve the game's feel and the juice, to add little effects like that when you interact with the items. Public demo, we can players a better all-around experience, whereas up till this point I've been mainly working on puzzle design and getting feedback on that. So before I hop to this final slide with all the info, I'm going to try the trailer one more time. Let's give it a bit more time.
If the trailer
And then we
doesn't
can
load
hop
for you, check it out on the Steam page, which I just posted in the Voice chat channel.
Okay, yeah.
They say when
there
you're
it is.
thinking about someone you love, your heart starts beating so fast it feels like time slows down, and the whole world comes to a standstill.
The name's Justin.
I'm I, as in, I love you.
And so voice acting, I think the voice acting there really helps bring the characters to life, and really improves the impression of the game. And so that's mainly everything I wanted to show. So as I mentioned, you can join the Discord server if you're interested for the latest updates, and for info on future playtesting, help directly give feedback that I can use to improve the game. Follow on Twitter at FlipAliveGames, and the Steam page I think is posted in the chat, so you can click there, and wishlisting the game really helps us out if it seems like something you'd find fun. So of course, that's all I have to present. I'm really happy to take feedback, especially since it's my first time working on something like this, and I'm doing a lot of learning as I go. Or if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
All right, 5 seconds early. Very well timed. Okay, everyone, ask questions. You've got about 5 minutes to do so in the presenter Q&A channel.
Right off the bat, we've got some questions coming in. So you mentioned Portal as one of your influences, and the game seems to be very Satirian and sweet from the trailers. Does this game harbor a dark side players will discover?
No, yeah, I want to be really clear because many people are already making comparisons with Doki Doki Literature Club, because of the name, And no, this is no dark twists. Just very wholesome the whole time. And I sometimes I get an idea for a dark twist and I immediately delete it because I don't want to be compared to that game because I know I won't make something as good. So I'm just keeping it wholesome.
But there will be some amount of drama, yeah? Or will
Yeah,
it
yeah,
mainly be just chill?
There'll be a little bit of drama, a little bit of romance. It's mainly like a romantic comedy kind of thing. Just a
Gotcha,
funny,
okay.
lighthearted story. The focus is more on the puzzles. Yep.
Thank you.
I absolutely loved the voice acting element. I think that's such a cool addition, especially with the presentation we've just had today. I saw that you had Japanese included in there. Do anybody on your team speak? Does anybody on your team speak Japanese? Sorry to flub the words there.
Yeah. So that's just stuff I picked up from the inspirations that I have, the obvious manga and anime inspirations. Planning on adding English ones as well, and just having it randomly Japanese or English. I think the Japanese ones fit better when going with that manga aesthetic because usually those sound effects are kept in Japanese, even when they're translated into other languages and brought to other countries.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I do wonder if players will be able to understand it since the game will be recorded in English. I do have to be careful with how much I want to lean into stuff.
Right. So it's the next question is what is your team's composition and the size? How long have you guys been working on this game as well?
Good question. Technically, it's just me and one artist. Of course, I'm getting help via freelance work from the voice actors and also with some 3D artists for the 3D modeling. And I'm handling the programming and level design. I'm writing the story and the characters and all that. So 2 to say 5, depending on how you want to count it. And I've been working on this since March. Started with a game jam where the theme was unlocked. I went with locking and unlocking in time.
That's awesome. Looks like you've been motoring on that project. Nick asks, what engine are you using?
Unity. I felt it was the easiest to jump into. There's lots of support and tutorials online. A newbie.
That's awesome. Do we have any other questions on Twitch or on the Discord meetup group? Oh, looks like we got another one coming in from Nick. Austin, how much time do we have?
90 seconds.
90 seconds? Awesome. So 90 seconds, get those final questions in. I don't know if you mentioned it. When is your demo coming out?
I am shooting for the Steam Next Fest in February. So the plan is to release it then, but I'm hoping to do lots and lots of playtesting before then and get the next playtesting build ready in about 2 months.
Awesome.
Yep.
So our next question comes in from Nick asking, how could I contact in order to help if you're looking for help?
Any of those social medias that I posted would work, Twitter or Discord.
Awesome.
But Discord being my favorite.
Awesome. And it just so works out that everybody here shares a Discord server, so it should be easy to connect.
Yep, just at me anytime or DM me anytime.
Awesome. Any other final questions? I think we probably got about 30 seconds left. I'm at work, so everybody hears me every time I say something, and it makes it very interesting. All right.
All right. Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Fantastic presentation. The game looks fantastic.
Thank you
Super
so
excited
much.
for it. Okay, so next up we have we have Soulfly, Brian Pierce. All right, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have the presenter role? You should now.
All right. Can you see?
All right. You have 5 minutes. Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right. So I just started working on my new game, Miska Mania. Kind of a little bit of spin-off from my previous game, Miska's Cave. The game itself, it's kind of like a combination of Angry Birds and Clash Royale. Very simple concept. Kind of acts like this, but more than the gameplay, that was just a very quick gameplay introduction. But more than that, I want to talk about the shaders that I'm using in this game because I'm having a lot of time learning about shaders and how I can use them throughout the game. The main use of my shaders is my Toon shader for 2D sprites and animations. So for this game, I'm using Spine to animate my assets and my sprites, and a good way to make them look more realistic is to make them look 3D. And to do that, I decided to make this shader that makes 2D objects look more 3D. So the shader that I use uses only 2 passes, one for the outline and one for the lighting. And I only need to use one extra map for this effect. So just one albedo map for the normal, sprite image, and then the normal to give it the lighting system. I think this is a lot more efficient than using normal sprites because for a sprite sheet, you'd have to make one frame, no, like one drawing per frame, and you'd have to double the amount of double the size of your image to get that lighting effect. So using this method kind of saves your file sizes. And yeah, I was able to make this shader a lot very flexible. I call this the tune map. So you can just put in a what I call like a tune sheet to change it to the lighting effect. So right here, there's only 2 pixels, and as you can see, there's only 2 shades for the lighting. This one has 3, so it's a little more layered. 4, this is just a gradient, and it looks, there's no tune effect right now. It's just a simple dither. And I can also color the maps as well, and I can get effects like this. I also experimented with making shaders for UI elements as well. So for this UI, I wanted to make it as flexible as possible and also as efficient as possible. But if I were to make this with a different method, I'd probably have to make and render a static image for every single item, or maybe create multiple raw images or images and then mask them at the end. And this isn't very efficient in what I want, and because you're required to render multiple images at once. So to show them in the editor, can you guys see my Unity screen? All right. So yeah, here's the spine animations with the lighting, and the lighting works dynamically. So just slow this down. I can change the lighting and it works well in real time. And the UI, let me actually, what I wanted to emphasize here is how much I can modify this in the editor. So all of these UI panels, they use the exact same shader and exact same code. I can just go in here and change the colors however I want right here. The clipping, the locations or the blend values. And this is a lot more efficient than just rendering each image separately. And I really enjoyed learning how to make these and getting this to work. How much time do I have left?
40 seconds.
4 seconds. Okay. One extra thing I want to show off is how I'm using Playfab right here. So right now the order is like here, but I can easily change the order of my shop. So if I move this guy right up, up here, and then save, it updates in real time. And if I check the store again, the location of the store element changes the way I need it to. So yeah, I've been enjoying working on this project and testing out the shaders. That's it.
All right, that's 5 minutes. Okay, everyone, questions in the presenter Q&A channel. Quick question. You are a student at U of M Dearborn, correct?
Yeah.
And what year are you, if you want to say?
Third year.
All right. So a lot of the stuff that you've shown off,
Mhm.
companies would kill to find a candidate for their junior roles.
Yes.
So that is to say that if you're not doing so, make sure that you're applying to all the internships out there and all the junior roles as well, because I think you have a fantastic portfolio.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I would second that. We have
Right.
a first question for you. Is what resources did you use to learn shaders?
So Unity Shader Lab has notoriously really bad documentation. So I recommend not using the documentation. But luckily, there's a lot of good sources out there. One channel I recommend is Freya Homer. She has a really good course on learning how to make shaders. Another site I recommend is called Catlight Coding. He also has very good courses on how to make shaders. Shader Toy is also a very good site for learning how to make shaders. There's one more site I forgot. I'll get back to you though, because I know a lot of good sites
That's
for learning how
awesome.
to make shaders.
Would you
Just
mind
don't.
posting those
The
later?
documentation is really bad. Yeah, go ahead. What?
Would you mind posting those links later for us?
Oh yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Looks like we have quite a few questions coming in, so we'll give them a second to finish typing. Do you have any performance concerns on any platforms?
Yes, I do. So my target is mobile, so I have every concern. But yeah, I'm worried about how my shaders might affect the speed on mobile. I might have to take away a few, like I might take away the emission map effect, or like have to like simplify some of my shaders. But since like my spine animations, they have like 10 to 15 parts, and you have to like, draw a shader on each of those parts in real time, 60 times per second. And I've tried it on mobile and it works fine, but I'm worried that in gameplay it's gonna slow down a lot more. So I might have to either simplify my the spine elements, or maybe take a few chunks out of my shaders. Hopefully not that, because I'm really happy about that.
It looks like we have a helpful hint. If you want to outline double your geo, flip the normals and scale it a little bit, and set the color to black. Oh, I see what you mean.
Geos and geometry? I haven't gone into geometry shaders yet.
Then we have a question from Austin asking, do you have an online portfolio so others and companies can see your work?
I don't. I only have one game out called Misko's Cave, and it's on Steam.
I would recommend putting together something that has like some of your broken out work as well, because that would be excellent. Like even just your shader work. Just a little write-up about it and showcase video on it would be awesome.
Okay. Yeah. One other thing I want to mention that I had a lot of fun learning over the summer is server authoritative movement, which I'm going to use for my gameplay. Playfab has really good server hosting capabilities, so I'm going to take advantage of that.
That's awesome. How much does it cost to work with Playfab?
They have a really generous free service. So I haven't gone over the limit, so I don't know for sure. But for servers, I think it just says on their site. Okay. Yeah, so I can't really answer that accurately, but I do know that they have a really good free system.
That's awesome.
All right, we have about another minute or so if we have any final questions.
Book of Shaders. Is that a new one? I feel like... Oh, I haven't looked at that one yet. I know that there's another Yeah, you're welcome, Josh. I haven't heard of the Book of Shaders, but I know that there's a company making a new book for shaders.
Hmm.
I'll link that. I'll also link that into the. It's still in. They called their book a beta state, which I thought was pretty funny.
That's awesome. Shaders are something that I keep telling myself I'm going to dabble in and then never do.
Yeah, it's really fun. Like when you get into it, though. Like sometimes I make a small change and I stare at what I did for 5 minutes because it's so interesting how like one line of code can change so much.
That is awesome. Okay. I'm
All
not
right.
seeing
It looks
anything
like that's
else.
just about it.
All right.
Brian, thank you so much, man. This stuff is always cool. You're doing a lot of very neat stuff. I'm going to. So we have a lot of companies locally who are looking for like this kind of stuff. I'm going to pass your name around, okay?
Okay,
And
go ahead.
to everyone, it gets much easier to recommend you and pass your names around when you have like a basic portfolio site.
All right.
Even if there's not that much you're showing off, it's really helpful because you add to it over time.
Okay. What's an easy way to make it? Like a Google Sites or something?
Carbon made.
Yeah, you can use that if you want a really quick one. That's going to look good. I recommend a technology called Jekyll. If you just Google Jekyll, it's a tool that helps you produce static sites that are basically free pretty much forever. You host them on something like Amazon S3 and CloudFront.
Oh.
And then it's super fast, it's very performant, and it's just like 3 cents per month. It's amazing. All right. So next up, we have doop. All right, Jocelyn, are you here?
I am.
Fantastic. So let's get you the presenter role.
Perfect.
All right.
Cool. While Josh is keying that up, I'm also just going to plug a company that I love. Monakeeper. Monakeep.
Oh, no,
I
I
think it might
can't.
be.
Good.
Perfect for a game website. Super cheap, super easy to use. I absolutely adore it.
I should disable Flux real quick. Hold on, or else you're gonna see like this ugly orange tint on my monitor. All right. 1 second. My bad. Okay. All right.
All right, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Josh. I am an indie game developer based in Michigan who has contributed to freeware games playable on itch.io. For today, I will be presenting a game I've been working on with a few other people. So it's called Lunar Encore. This game so it's called Lunar Encore. It's a remake of a game I did for Game Jam called Lunar Encore. And of course, it's without the R. It's a 2.5D Yuri Magical Girl RPG. This game is inspired by the likes of action-adventure games like the Legend of Zelda series, as well as various JRPGs like the Xeno series, Shin Megami Tensei, and Octopath Traveler. So, I really want to discuss our kind of transition from going from 2D to a 2.5D space. We decided to go this approach because of our strength in it, as players really appreciate the 2D characters in a 3D environment from games I've worked on previously. With this soulfully programmed with Shader Lab, to craft this, beautiful lighting system. Sorry, I was just reading something Austin sent me. So anyways, okay, I just got stuck. Okay, my bad.
Apologies, distracting you.
No, it's okay. So soulfully programmed this with Shader Lab to craft this, beautiful lighting system. It can work on directional point lights. It can cast and receive shadows from mesh renders. When soulfully just finished the shader, we just could not stop looking at this GIF. Just absolutely beautiful. We just stared at it for maybe 5 minutes at a time, like he mentioned. So for the most part, every JRPG or RPG kind of has exploration gameplay. For the most part, our player state machine is finished. For the most part, enemies, objects, not exactly implemented yet, due to just me wanting to work on something different. But due to this transition from 2D to 2.5D, we made several different changes to the gameplay and the gameplay loop. I can actually answer any questions about that if anyone's curious. So for now, I'm working on the turn-based combat, and I'm trying to add a unique, fun twist to it. Currently, the twist would be it is first-person, like Dragon Quest or Megami Tensei games, but instead of you selecting the target by using your cursor or whatnot. You actually aim and shoot and fire like you would in a first-person shooter and whatnot. So it's kind of like a gallery shooter with turn-based elements in it. And the last thing I actually want to show off is new pieces of artwork that are made by the character artist as well as the sprite artist and environment artist. And I gotta say, like, I really admire their work and I'm so grateful for their work because, you know, drawing is really difficult, especially in a volunteer position. So I'll be showing that off right now. So our idea for the setting for the demo is going to be in a circus, and there will be a Zelda-like dungeon that will just take place in a giant circus tent. Here's kind of some concepts for that currently. And with that, before I end it, I'm just gonna allow the artwork to kind of showcase itself for a second. And now, last thing, I'm actually looking for people right now. It is a volunteer position, but if you want a good learning experience, if you want your work in a game that will be played by a lot of people, I usually average around 150 people to maybe like 4,000 people that play my games on itch.io or games I contribute to it on itch.io. I'm looking for someone who can do sprite work in a chibi style. I'm also looking for someone who can work with Unity's particle system. I'm also looking for an assistant to help me with gameplay elements, balancing, and other mechanics. So you can actually contact me via Discord right here. But yeah, that's pretty much my whole presentation. So I can take questions now.
Awesome. We've got 5 minutes for questions, everyone. Go for it.
I should also link my itch.io page, shouldn't I?
Yes. That was my first question.
I edit that link. All right. I should actually. So exploration will not affect battles currently. That was actually part of our original plan was, it's going to be like you attack an enemy and then either the player gets the first turn or the enemy gets the first turn. But actually due to the 2.5D style, it's really hard to kind of tell where your melee attack will hit. And we would actually have to render the sword trail in 3D as a particle effect opposed to a sprite. But ultimately, just due to scope and our time limit, because the demo will be releasing no matter what on December 2nd this year, we decided to kind of cut down on that part and try to think of a different solution for this. But essentially, they are kind of 2 separate parts of the game. Yeah, so it will be a mix between a first-person shooter and sandbox elements. So you aim a cursor, you fire, and you can switch between skills that way, as opposed to like going through all the menus and let's say your typical turn-based RPG. So actually, I can switch to a little footage here I did of it. That's the lighting system, although I love it. Thank you, Soulfully. So basically, it's just kind of like this. This is actually measuring. I wrote an algorithm that kind of measures the accuracy of like where the crosshair is in conjunction to the object. So as you kind of see, like when the crosshair kind of shifts out of the area, like the accuracy for this game object decreases. So that's kind of essentially how it works. Is like your typical first-person shooter, along with with turn-based elements, pretty much. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Still really early in the prototype phase, but I'm very confident about this battle system. It can be done with as less art assets as possible, and that's really important, especially when you want to get your artists to work on certain things and prioritize the right things and just make a polished experience in a very limited time. So success really comes with like the reaction that players will have, whether that be the story resonated with me, I liked the characters, the art was good, the gameplay was fun. I feel like that is the kind of success I'm looking for. sometimes with some games, like I'll publish them or publish with others at itch.io, and usually if like the reception is like, oh, it was fun, gameplay was okay, but I like the story, as long as like 2 or 3 elements out of like 5 elements of a game were successful, I think that is success to me personally. And also, if people are playing it daily, usually with a recent title I made, Phantom Girl Rhythm, you can play on my itch.io page. It kind of averages between 4 to 7 daily plays, and that means that the game is still gaining some traction after like it was released for a game jam. A ton of games on itch. How long have you been making games, and what? Okay, so for me, I've been making games for a very long time. I started using Unity when I was 16. I'm 21 now. I started publishing games on itch.io last year during the pandemic. It was such a perfect time to do that. And for me, I want to actually transition out of the indie space and kind of make kind of publish a game from a financial perspective. I'm still trying to figure that space out, but that's kind of my goal, is to kind of transition out of creating freeware to making games with monetization in it. So the white pillars would actually be enemies in this case. It's just that we had to test out, like, okay, well, does the crosshair part of the canvas actually hit the enemy or the environment itself?
Okay, 15 seconds. Any final questions? Going. All right. Fantastic. Jocelyn, thank you so much. These games look really, really awesome. And it's super exciting to see that you've been making games for so long. Like we gotta learn, we gotta see more of this stuff. You gotta present on more of your other projects. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I remember like presenting actually exactly a year ago Metal Star, but I didn't present anything else. I had this like little insecurity of not doing it, but now I want to. But yeah, I agree with you.
Heck yeah. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So next up, we have of Wolverine Soft Studio. But let's let's see here. Okay, are you here, Brandon?
So Brandon couldn't make it, but I'll be presenting for him, and as well as Crystal and maybe Logan if he wants to.
Fantastic. Corbin gave you the role and I took it away. All right. Does everyone have the role that wants it? All right, Nigel, go ahead.
Okay,
You've
cool.
got 5 minutes. Get your stream going.
Okay, let me post a link to Wolverine Soft Studio, and if you want to learn more about my background, I will paste my portfolio there. And Crystal can if she wants to, but let me get the game online, and then I will share my screen with you guys.
So what is Wolverine Soft Studio?
Wolverine Soft Studio is a student-led development studio here at the University of Michigan. So this project, first of all, can you guys see my screen? Can you hear the audio?
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Cool. So my name is Nigel. I am presenting what I share with you guys. So I will play the game for a little bit. And to give you guys some more background on what this game is, it is a case study of Crazy Taxi. And Crazy Taxi is a really classic arcade game, pretty memorable, developed by Sega. And for this studio project, we really wanted to kind of experiment with Unreal Engine, because our games prior to this sort of development cycle were all developed in Unity. And this project is unprecedented because this is our first actual Unreal project. And as a matter of fact, it's actually one of our smallest studio projects ever. Our last project, Caduceus, had around 25 people, and this project has around 10 people actually, in addition to our playtesters and advisors like Austin Yarger and Nico who we are also really grateful for. So, this game works pretty much like Crazy Taxi does. We got some really cool physics in it, and a really cool fact about this is that almost no one really didn't know how to use the Unreal Engine prior to developing this game. So many of us were coming into this project blind, and we had to learn the engine on the fly in order to get this game made. And there's still some rough spots here and there, you know. Um, our game was in development for 14 weeks, and we only were able to finish it in the pre-gold phase. So there's certainly still some polish that we can add to the game, but overall, we were all really proud of our work. And I think Crystal can speak to this, but we have really fun time developing this game. So I will drive around the environment for the time that we have left, and then I will be around, and Crystal will be around as well if you have any questions. Crystal, feel free to talk if you want to add on to anything.
I think Nigel pretty much covered everything. Very nicely done. Yeah, it was a lot of work. It was definitely a lot of fun. I think that, you know, if you guys ever have the time, checking out Unreal is pretty good. I think there probably are less tutorials than Unity, but there are like Epic Games has learning paths on their website and stuff. So it's definitely worth a look.
90 seconds.
Nigel, do you have anything you want to add, or Logan?
Okay, cool. So this is the credit screen. We were able to. Oh, and thank you, Crystal, by the way, for speaking on this. But this is the credit screen. We did have some ideas kind of floating around, but one of the biggest problems that we had was making sure that everything was in scope, especially with how small our team is. It was really important for us to implement ideas that we knew that were going to work well. And I will argue that a bigger reason for why we developed this game was to really get a sort of a get the ground running on Unreal development for our studio. So as I said before, we usually develop in Unity over the years since we started. And this project, I think, is a really great indicator that our studio can develop in Unreal as well. And we also got really lucky, thanks to Austin and the work of Brandon, to get a Perforce. So while we won't be developing in Unity for this academic year, which is the fall and winter semesters at
In
Michigan.
Unreal, right? Not Unity.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry about that. Yeah. But yeah, we hopefully want to explore Unreal development in the future for sure.
Okay, 5 minutes for questions. Go for it.
Okay, let me see. Okay, cool. So I can speak to that first, and then Crystal can add on to that. But I think the biggest part was, for me at least, learning blueprints. So blueprints is fundamentally different if you are coming from like writing raw code out like C++ or C Sharp. Um, Blueprints is a visual scripting language, and rather than writing lines of code, you instead put blocks together and you wire them up. So for me, who has been developing in C++ for a few years now since Michigan's curriculum is in that, switching to that sort of style of programming was a big challenge for me. But with the help of my peers and just learning resources online, I was able to overcome that. Crystal, do you want to add on to that?
Sure. So I have a very different situation from Nigel. I code, but I don't code a lot, and I had never worked in Unity before either. So for me, learning Unreal was just kind of like, okay, like this is how it is, and I actually found it pretty easy to learn overall. For me, blueprints were really nice because I didn't have to learn the syntax and stuff of C++ or C sharp. Um, so I think like honestly the most challenging part was that my computer would start screaming every time I tried to open it. But other than that, it was fine.
Yeah, I definitely remember that Crystal had
Oh
issues
my god.
on her computer. She's a Mac user, and most of us are Windows users, so we had to figure out how to help her out there.
Yeah, I
But I
spent a
def
couple weeks just troubleshooting.
yeah, definitely. Um, Yusuke asked, "What would you do to add more juice?" I think one of the big things that were missing there were the really the props, like the physics objects, the smaller things, and the world and everything. I did develop a system for that, but unfortunately, due to time constraints, we weren't able to get that in. So we definitely need more props like benches and lamp posts and things that the car can crash into and destroy. We definitely need that. And Crystal can add more to that question if she would like.
Yeah, I think what Nigel said was a huge part of like what I would add to juice it up. Otherwise I think anything, probably just like more fine tuning for, communication with the player and that kind of thing. But I think like I'm pretty proud of what we came out with during the summer.
Yeah, I am as well. Paul asked, "Oh, it's great to see you again, Paul. What was the most challenging part other than learning Unreal?" So at least for me, um, I went through a pretty bad experience of burnout, given that I wrapped up my last semester in Michigan, and I also had a really bad burnout from the last Wolfenstein Soft Studio project. So I really hesitated to develop this one, and over the few weeks, it was really hard for me to kind of stay motivated to develop the game. But I would say that as I got to know my peers a lot more and just to get to talk to them and the different opportunities that we had to work with each other during our scheduled work sessions really helped greatly in that regard. Crystal, would you like to add more onto that?
Yeah, I'll say that Nigel was really great throughout like the whole thing, despite, any like reduced attendance or whatever. Um, he was always very reliable. Um, Hi Paul. Oh, nice to see you again. Most challenging part other. So I worked primarily on audio for this. I did a little bit of writing too. And the most challenging part for me was trying to write for a punk rock style because I mostly come from like classical, but also like an orchestral background. So that was like weeks of just listening to so much punk rock music and then trying to write and then getting really frustrated, giving up for a couple days and coming back. Um, yeah, for sure that was the hardest part.
All right, I believe that is it. Hey, team, thank you so much. The game looks really great, particularly for how quickly it was made and over the summer, too. So, no course credit or anything. This is really great stuff. All
Yeah,
right,
thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
thank you. All right, I think that's it, Corbin. That is all of our presenters for today. That is the showcase. If you would like to sign up to present your project, to get feedback, to just practice a presentation, you can do that very easily using this link right here. I will post that right here in the voice chat. Register for next month, which should be pretty darn fun. Okay, does anyone have any community announcements they would like to make?
While we wait to see if we have any community announcements, please always feel free to reach out to Austin or myself if you have your game coming out, if you're doing something awesome in the industry, or if you're doing something local that's awesome and you're trying to get more awareness to it, we are always happy to share things on Twitter, Facebook, through Meetup. Here on the Discord, we have a Share My Work section here in the Discord. We try to do job postings. I see quite a few of you guys who are here today posting jobs in those job posting things as you see them. I know that I really appreciate it. I know Austin really appreciates it. The more we can do to help the local community, that's what our goal is, and that's what we want to do. So if you publish your game and you don't reach out to us and say, hey, can you do a blast for me? You're just missing out on so many potential people to look at your game. Everybody wants to support you, so I encourage you to make sure that you do that, okay? I'm not seeing any other announcements, Austin.
All right, I think that's it. Everyone, it's been so great to see you. Hopefully we'll be seeing you in person fairly soon.
Yes.
Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us in the Discord and on twitch.tv as well. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. We'll have the posting up on YouTube here within the next day or so. Bye.